This woman just did a documentary where she slept with 100 guys in one night, and it's brutal.
I'm Lily Phillips, and today I'm getting run through by 100 guys.
Dad's friends and stuff like that.
Messaging you?
Yeah.
Okay, just take two.
Hello, you gorgeous donuts. Today we're going to be covering the Lily Phillips situation, which has took over the internet. If you don't know who Lily Phillips is, she's basically an OF creator who's been famous for doing some wild stunts, I guess you can call them. And just recently she did her wildest challenge to date, where she slept with 100 guys in one night. And a YouTuber by the name of Josh Pieters actually did a full documentary piece on this. He basically documented the lead up to this happening and the actual day itself. Honestly, this is one of the wildest things you will see in the next, I don't even know how many years. In this video, we're going to go through the documentary and I'm going to give my thoughts on everything that happens. We're going to try and dissect why she is doing this. We're going to look at her response after completing the challenge, and honestly, it's brutal, so prepare yourselves for that. We're going to try and dissect why she's actually going through with this and what a crazy challenge is that she's currently setting herself, and the disturbing response from the public. We've got so much to get through, so let's just get into it. So the documentary by Josh is called I Slept with 100 Men in One Day. Now already you're like, surely she didn't do this. Like, when I first heard that she was doing this challenge, I was like, yeah, she's clearly gonna fake it. Like, she fakes a lot of her content. How wrong was I? How wrong was I? I wish I was right. For once, I want somebody to have faked the content. However, before he uploaded this to YouTube, he was actually uploading this to his Patreon, and I checked his Patreon to see how many people have actually purchased this. 2,390 people, bearing in mind there's only one post, so there's only one thing they've bought it for. Now, it costs £3.50 to buy, like, the uncensored version on Patreon. If I work out how much Josh has made from this documentary just off, like, subscriptions, it's crazy. So £3.50 times by 2,390. He's made at least 8,365 quid just off the subscriptions before it's been uploaded to YouTube, which it has now. Now, as of recording this was uploaded 4 days ago, and it has gained nearly 700,000 views. And it's been all over my For You page, all over my Twitter. And just before I get into this documentary, I want to just do a disclaimer saying that I am going to be trying to show every single person's perspective during this, so don't hate me if I'm like trying to offer the perspective of someone you don't agree with. I don't agree with it either. I'm just trying to like kind of get in the headspace of why certain people are doing things. Anyway, so the documentary starts off with Josh basically giving a little bit of background information about Lily to his audience. He then meets her and asks her a few questions that I guess people want to know, such as what do your parents think about what you're about to do? And Lily says she hasn't actually told her parents about this specific challenge, but she says that her parents are proud of what she does.
Well, my parents knew straight from the start, like, about what I was doing. Yeah, I was just very open with it. Obviously, at the start, they were a bit apprehensive because they want me to be safe and
Yeah.
they want me to make good decisions.
Now, I'd like to ask you, the audience, like, how would you feel if your, your kid said that they were going to do something like this? Like, would you kind of support them because they're your child, or would you put your foot down? Like, it is an interesting conversation because after doing a little bit of background research on Lily, like, from what I can gather, she's came from, like, a really good background. Like, she's came from, like, I don't know if they're, like, I'd say, like, a wealthy family. She's lived in nice areas. Like, she doesn't seem like she's had any, hardship in terms of like how she's grew up, which I'm not saying if you did it would lead you to this point, but just it's kind of interesting that she's chose this as like her thing, when in reality she's not doing this out of necessity. She's just kind of doing it for the love of the game. Josh kind of uses the first part of this documentary to get to know Lily. Like, they go on a street walk and Lily kind of says what demographic kind of recognizes her on the street.
Or like a chavvy, younger guy, and not ones that you'd find in Chelsea, I don't think.
I mean, I feel a little bit called out there, I can't lie. Am I chavvy? To be fair, I do get that comment a lot. Like, people saying, off your chav. I'm like, whoa, I'm literally just trying to make a living here. Is that okay? Josh then asks her another important question, like, how do you feel about marrying someone one day? Like, what would you look for in a partner? How do you think a partner's going to look at you now with what you're doing? And her response is, like, so wild, because she says that she wants somebody that kind of is open to lending her out. Like, she uses those exact words. Basically, she wants her future partner to be a cook, which, Like, it just seems like everything with her is like overly sexualized. Like, everything is so fetishized. There's not one part of her life that isn't kind of centered around, you know, sex. She could have been like, you know, someone that I just want to go on all-inclusive holidays with, you know, go to the cinema. No. I want somebody that wants to lend me out. Like a 6-month loan period, right? Get some experience, then come back a better player. What? What are we loaning our wives out for? What happened to them just being signed on permanent? Remember those days? God. Ghastly, guys. What's going on? Now, obviously, in these videos, I try and look at this from everyone's perspective, and I wonder, because she's kind of grew up with a very, you know, kind of, I guess, like, I wouldn't say boring upbringing, but, you know, she's kind of, you know, had, like, a lot of luxuries, etc. Like, I think her parents are still together, like, she's had quite a nuclear family. I wonder if she's just trying to rebel against that, because that's what it seems like everything in her life, like, what she does for a job, she's trying to rebel, what she wants in, like, a marriage is like, completely away from the norm of society. It's almost like in every aspect of her life she wants to be like different. Lily then goes shopping for like an outfit she's gonna wear on the day that she gets ran through by 100 guys, in her own words. What is this video, man? What are you doing today? I think I'm just gonna go shopping. What about you, Lily? Just getting run through by 100 guys, not much. And then they return home and Lily basically shows Josh how much she earns from doing what she does. Now, if you want to see that, make sure you go and watch Josh's video, but clearly, like, from his reaction, it's a hell of a lot. And one thing that Lily says is that she's doing this 100 guys in one night challenge because it's like a fantasy of hers, it's something she really wants to do. Now, the question I would ask is it really? Like, if you weren't getting paid the large amount of money you're getting paid, would you still do this as like a fun thing? I doubt that you would. Like, I think the money and you know, the 6 figures that you're earning a month has a huge part to play in you wanting to get with 100 guys in a night. If she was really honest with herself, I believe that she wouldn't do it unless it was for the money, because she constantly says in this documentary that she's doing this because she loves it, because it's what she wants to do. However, because she mentions it so much, I actually think she's trying to convince herself that it's what she wants to do, because if you actually want to do something, you don't repeat it all the time. You're just comfortable in your own skin knowing that this is what you want. You don't need to prove it to other people. One thing that I found like absolutely mind-blowing in this is she talks about some of the requests that like guys send her in for her to do, and she also talks about like the type of people that subscribe to her, and she has had messages from some of her dad's friends. Like, how weird and creepy is that? Like, yeah, you can have a go at Lily for doing, you know, like these absolutely wild things that attracts this type of man, but for her dad's friends to have like subscribed to her and like messaged her, like they possibly would have known Lily from being a child. Like, that is absolutely sickening. And obviously her dad's gonna see this. Like, surely like her dad's got to say something to his friends. Like, that's all you like, imagine you have a child and one of your friends is like subscribed to their OnlyFans. Like, how could you speak to that person again? One thing that this documentary does a great job of is exposing how horrific the OF industry and like everything that is around it actually is. It also exposes like especially how men kind of think when it comes to like fetishes and all that kind of stuff.
Some of like dad's friends and stuff like that.
What, messaging you?
Yeah. I just tried to keep it very professional.
Oh my, like, bro. Right. That is one of the worst things I've ever heard in my life. Like, I've heard that about 3 times now because I've seen it twice on TikTok, and it never gets easier. Ever. Like, what happens when he goes down to the pub, right? He's like, oh, what you been doing today, Jerry? Oh, I've been wanking off to your daughter. You'd be like, what? You'd be like, fuck off, Jerry. Fucking get one of them, will you? This documentary does a good job of, like, exposing, like, the behind the scenes of the industry, etc. Because obviously Lily is, like, putting out applications for 100 guys to come and sleep with her. And she actually shows, like, the live applications coming in to, like, enter the challenge.
This is where the applications are coming through.
Mate, we need to just eradicate the human race, just start again. Like, this genuinely is, like, sick. Like, really sick. Like, if you're one of those lads typing out a message, applying for this, sort yourself out. Like, actually look at yourself in the mirror and be like, what am I doing with me life? I can't even see this from your perspective. Like, from your perspective, for you to join that queue, like, why? Could you imagine, right? Like, let's say you get with someone and you're like, oh, I'm really liking this person, and then you find out that they queued up to shag Lily Phillips. Like, that's an instant ick. You're gonna be like, sorry, I don't care anymore. Even if you've got kids together, I'd be like, nah, that's too... Nah, you queued up and you were 70th. Makes it worse, fella. It doesn't matter what number you are, even if you're first. That's just weird, because, like, why have you camped out? It's interesting because you can take the piss out of Lily, and rightly so, for even, like, doing this in the first place. But the only reason she's doing this is because she knows that men will be up for it, which it's sick. Lily and Josh then have a bit of a deep chat on the sofa, and Lily says that she basically feels, like, quite alone in the industry. She feels like everyone is preying on her downfall 24/7, like everyone wants to see her kind of just crumble. Now, because of the outrageous stuff she's doing and how, like, brutal it is, like, that is obviously the reaction you're gonna get, because you're getting a lot of luxuries from doing this. You're gonna be earning 6 figures a month. That's obviously got to come with, like, a huge drawback. Like, it can't all be good, otherwise, like, everyone would do it. And she's gonna receive, like, little to no empathy from the audience that are watching this. And I feel like when she's talking about this, she does feel hurt by it, because one thing, just, like, kind of observing Lily, like, she really does seek validation from people kind of wanting her. Like, her showing all these messages coming through, even her kind of doing 100 guys in one night, it's all kind of seeking, you know, like, validation for whether it's for her looks, whether whatever it is that she feels emptiness inside, she's trying to fill it with this. But I think it does open up an interesting conversation about the OF industry in general, because I did this full video on the OF industry and how they kind of do outrageous things to, like, market their pages, because there's, like, more competition now, and because it's so saturated, people are making themselves do outrageous things to stand out without, like, thinking about how ethical it is. There's one part in this doc where she basically exposes what makes her happy.
I get, like, serotonin, like, from when people are like, oh my god, you're that on the internet. Sounds crazy.
I know, and I know you're saying that to me right here, but I don't believe that.
I kind of love, like, ruffling feathers a little bit and people getting a bit, like, agitated.
See, I think she does get serotonin from that, because everything that she does is for fame. Like, I honestly think her main thing that she's trying to fill, this void inside of her, she's trying to fill it with being as famous as possible. Like, I know just from, like, being inside the industry that she does so many podcast appearances because she asks people to come on podcasts. Like, a lot of the time, normally with podcasts, the team will reach out to you and you'll be like, yeah, I'm up for that. Where she actively, like, seeks out appearing on these things. Now, the only reason you do that for is because you want as much exposure as possible. You want as many people to know your name. And I honestly believe, like, out of anything in this world, the one thing that Lily does prioritize is notoriety. Now, the documentary moves forward into the actual day of Lily sleeping with these 100 guys. And one thing, like, I just thought was, like, they hire out an Airbnb, like, for all this to take place in. I wonder what they put on the application form for the Airbnb. You know, like, when you rent an Airbnb, you've got to say how many people are coming in. Do you really think that she's wrote down, well, 100 guys will be coming in? I don't think she did. Because I don't think, like, they would have agreed to let her have that. Like, imagine being the person that has to sleep in that bed the next night after they leave, and you have no idea what's just happened the night before. I'm getting so agitated, I'm getting voice breaks. Like, that room's going to be haunted. Like, they should just lock the door and never open it again, because many souls are going to die in that box room that night. Now, obviously, I don't want to just show, like, all of the footage from this documentary. Like, if you want the full footage, make sure you go and watch Josh's actual documentary after this on his channel. But just off a few things that I'm going to show, like, it's crazy how dark this actually is, and you don't realise it until the day actually arrives. It's crazy because all of the guys are just in a room. It's like they're waiting to go on, like, the Britain's Got Talent stage, you know, when they're in the green room and they all get, like, a number. It's like, wait until your number's called, right? Then you get 5 minutes, you're in, you're out, right? Also, one reason why I don't think that this is that structured is because I can't gather if you have to keep your shoes on or keep them off. Like, this guy, shoes off. This guy, shoes on. Like, what's the policy here? If you can't even get shoes off or on at the door right, how are you going to get the rest right? That's a crucial first step. This is one thing that I'm so interested in. Like, what type of guys are turning up to this? Imagine finding out, like, one of your mates had, like, went to this. You'd be like, what are you doing? Really? Like, even if they said it was a laugh, you'd be like, mate, that's not funny, that, like. It's just creepy. I honestly think, like, some aspects of the OF industry and the corn industry, you know what I'm talking about, have had such a huge effect on guys' minds that it's kind of brainwashed them in a way that thinking, like, something like this is completely normal because they've seen it in a fabricated world on a corn video. If you said this to, like, people like 30 or 40 years ago, like, go and do this, I guarantee, like, you'd get a much different reception from a lot of lads. I'm just fascinated by this. Like, what are they talking about in the waiting room? Like, are you talking about, like, your FPL teams? Like, who are you going to swap in? Who are you going to make triple captain? Like, surely you can't be talking about what you're about to do, because then you will realise, like, how sick it is that you're all actually kind of going to be going in after each other. I mean, there's 2 guys with Nike trainers on, so what does that say about Nike? You know, their stocks fell dramatically after this dropping. Also, like, what happens if you, like, get, I don't know, say if you're, like, 79 and you look at 78 and you're like, God, he does not look like he washes. Do I really want to, you know, like... do you take that into account? I need to know what the mindset of these guys is. I feel like I should have got the gig of hosting the after show, you know, like what Stephen Mulhern does with Britain's Got Talent. Like, how did you find it, right? Yeah? Do you feel like a terrible person? Do you? You should. One thing that is alarming is they have a fan in the room. You could say it's an only fan. Oh, I felt dirtier than Lily Phillips after that one, I can't lie. Also, they don't explain a lot of the logistics once the guys go into the room. Like, are they stripping? Because they only get 5 minutes, so are they stripping down naked? But then that takes, like, up 2 minutes to get your clothes back on, etc. So surely, like, they're just keeping their clothes on. It just makes it a lot darker because it's so, like... transactional. It's like, that's ultimately what it is. It's basically like a you know, like a Yo Sushi counter. You're just kind of picking them off and then they're gone. Lily's team asked Josh not to film the guys, which I completely, like, disagree with. Like, I think if you're a guy and you're turning up to this, you have to be on camera. Let's see how many of the guys go then, right? If their faces had to be shown, I guarantee you'd get, like, only 10% of the guys actually turning up. Because they know what they're doing is wrong. I like how Josh also interviews some of the guys to try and get, like, from their perspective, like, why they're actually doing this. And he interviews one guy who came all the way from Switzerland and overall spent £800 on this trip. Like, what are we... How sad have you got to be to pay £800 to do this? Like, travel a country. Like, get on a plane for this. Like, can you not just, like... get to know someone in Switzerland and then have a much better experience with them because you actually feel something? Is this the only way that you can achieve the bloody deed? It just baffles us. It's like he's coming to like a meet and greet. Like, it's as if Lily Phillips is doing, like, an interactive meet and greet where you get to join in. It's just weird. One thing I do want to know is I actually I feel a certain type of way about Lily's team. Like, Lily talks about a team a lot and how they kind of help her. I don't think they're helping her. Like, there's this woman who I believe is her assistant or a manager, and the way she kind of treats the day, it's almost like for her own conscience, she's not treating it as serious as she should be. Like, she even hides her face in the documentary, which I think speaks 1,000 words. She can say, oh, I just don't want to be on camera, but I think she doesn't want to be on camera because it's associated with this. I think it's the assistant's boyfriend or someone that works for Lily's boyfriend is, like, he's a magician and he's performing magic for the lads in the queue, like, leading up to it. Like, what are you doing? Like, imagine queuing up to, you know, do the deed with Lily Phillips and then fucking Dynamo turns up telling you to pick a card. You'd be like, what are you doing? It's just such a weird, like, dystopian environment. Like, why is there a guy doing card tricks? Pick a card, any card. Mate, honestly, I'm good. You know, if the guys queuing up for Lily Phillips are turning you down, then you're desperate. Then you're really doing something wrong. Just quickly, guys, before we proceed with this video, make sure you are subscribed to the channel so you can join the best community on the internet, the Donuts. In this little corner of the internet, we've got plenty of videos like this to binge watch when you're bored. So consider pressing the subscribe button and let's get back to the video. Our assistant at one point even says this, which I just think is so... just odd.
I've got a few people who have, like, gone home and then they've called us and like, can my friend come? I've just told him how sick it was. And we're like, yeah, bring it. Like, send your friend over.
I know she needs to get to this number, but you just telling random people to come. Like, at the start, they said that they prioritise people with, like, STI checks, etc. Like, I guess you can call that kind of the due diligence. Due diligence? I can't say that word. Where they're actually carrying out checks, but towards the end, she's like, oh yeah, just let anyone in. Like, someone's maid, he could have anything, he could be a murderer, for Christ's sake.
It's been great for, like, networking, like, even, like, husbands being like, oh yeah, I do this for a living, saying the job, oh, we need someone that does that.
Like, this is bad. This is really bad. Like, why would you ever want somebody working with you that is queued up to sleep with a woman when she's also sleeping with 100 other guys? You don't want that type of... you don't want to be working with that type of person. What do you mean it's been great for networking? You want to have like a networking party? Just put a buffet on. This is not a networking thing. Obviously, Lily's a grown woman, right? She's made this decision. But I feel a little bit sorry for her because I just wish I had people around her that told her straight, like, you're not doing that. Like, people that really really cared for our safety. Because if I was working for someone, like a creator, and they said they were going to do that, I would be like, we're not doing that. And if they were like adamant, like so adamant, I would be putting every single measure in place to make sure that they're safe. And when you're saying you're just getting friends of friends to just come like as a spur of the moment thing, that's not doing that. You can't justify that as being safe at all. Apparently there was even guys who like rang up and said, oh, I didn't perform well, can I come back? And they let them. Like, what do you mean you're just letting them back in for a second go? It's honestly mind-boggling. Like this, it's like they just have zero respect for Lily, or Lily has zero respect for herself. Josh then goes to meet Lily after she has completed the challenge of sleeping with 100 guys in one day. And I'm not going to show this. Like, if you want to go and see what the room looks like, go and watch Josh's documentary. But honestly, it is genuinely horrific. Like, I can't even imagine the smell of that room. Honestly, not even a TK Maxx candle is sorting that out. And trust me, they can sort out some smells. What? Why did I say that? That sounds like I'm really weird. Why did I say that? I just meant like shit. Wait, what? Just gotta sit down. Now we're coming to the end of this documentary, but this is actually the thing that I was most interested in, because I wanted to see, after she's done this, how she would feel, because that's a real indication of whether she believes this was a mistake or not. Like, would she regret it, or does she feel a sense of accomplishment? Was there like overriding happy feelings, or was she distraught?
I think I repeatedly said, you can call my face, but not in my eye.
And they just went right at the eyes.
Well, I think like it might have been an accident.
That's... Ooh. Okay. I know I'm nitpicking here with certain stuff, but even the fact that she's letting them, finish on her face, that's heavily people-pleasing. Like, you're already doing more than enough. You don't need to let them do that as well.
When was the last time you ate?
I think I had a yam yam. Yam yam, is that what they're called? A little pastry. And I think I had a sandwich, and that was and then the rest come.
Like, obviously that is really disturbing to hear. And Lily's actually mentioned previously in this documentary that she feels like this is an empowering thing that she does. And obviously this is definitely going to have so many different opinions on it. And I don't want to seem like misogynistic here. This is just my opinion. I don't feel like this act is empowering for women at all. Like, when you're starving yourself, like, like not having any breaks just to satisfy random men who don't care about you, I don't see where the power is there, because the power is not with you. The power is with the men. Like, you're starving yourself to satisfy these men who don't give two shits about you. That is like the least empowering thing ever. And I know a lot of people aren't going to agree with this, but I actually feel like Lily seems like a nice person. She genuinely seems like she has a nice side to her. Like, just overall the way she carries herself. She doesn't seem like she has that much of an ego. She seems like she's quite caring. It just contrasts so much with her actions.
It's not like just having sex with someone.
Yeah. Just one in, one out. Like, it feels intense.
Like, more intense than you thought it might.
Definitely.
Sorry.
Okay. Just take
1 minute.
Like, whatever you think about what you've just saw there, and obviously, again, it's her decision to do this. She has to face the repercussions of this. But that is a human. That is a person with thoughts, feelings. Like, she feels stuff. And as she was explaining and trying to justify it there, she was really processing what she's just been through on the spot while she was speaking on camera there. And as you saw, she just broke down in tears and walked off. I honestly feel in that moment, you've just saw the realization of what she's actually done. And I don't mean like she slept with 100 guys, like, oh my god, how has she done that? I think it's deeper than that. I think she got upset when she started talking about how it was one in, one out. The guys had no, like, they didn't value her. They didn't, like, appreciate her. And when I said at the start of this video, the one thing Lily wants more than anything is fame, appreciation. I think she's realised that this challenge actually hasn't filled that void she thought it would. That void of being wanted, that void of feeling valued. It's actually done the complete opposite.
The awkward interaction of, like, you feeling pressure to have to make them come if, like, you haven't spent enough time with them, and feeling like they didn't, like, you didn't give them a good time because, like, they only got 2 minutes.
Oh my. Before I talk about the guys there, like, this backs up my point that I feel like Lily's actually quite a nice person. Like, the first thought, she hasn't thought about what she's just done for these 100 guys. She's thinking, oh, I'm worried in case they haven't had a good... Like, she's constantly putting other people before herself. Like, she has no respect for herself. And that's something she has to work on internally. Like, she has to, like, really know her self-worth. And obviously, if she knew her self-worth, she wouldn't be doing stuff like this. But this is the type of guy that is going to turn up to this. The type of guy that this, good-looking girl is offering you the chance to sleep with her for free. You don't have to pay anything. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is turn up. And still, they take more. Still, they're guilt-tripping you. Still, they're not satisfied. And that is where there's just no appreciation. Like, they don't appreciate that you're giving them this opportunity. It's almost expected. It's almost like, well, what, you're not going to make us cut? Like, how cruel do you have to be to say that to a girl that is clearly vulnerable? Clearly, there's been like 40 people before you. This girl's clearly not in a good headspace. And you still feel like you're going to guilt-trip them. That's evil. That's genuinely evil. And I know a lot of guys are probably going to disagree with this and go, yeah, well, it's her issue for doing this, but not that. For a guy to say that, like, that is just... Honestly, this is so dark, like, really, really dark. It's hard to make jokes about because it's actually really sad. And it just comes back to my previous point where this just adds further to the fact this is not empowering. This is not good. For me, the other women aren't going to look at this and go, wow, that really gives me power back. Like, when you're getting guilt-tripped from lads because they're saying you like they haven't finished yet, and you're going, okay, that's fine, I'll let you finish. Like, where's the power? You're not in control here. They're the ones in control. They're the ones who feel like they can just do anything to you. And what this does to, young impressionable guys, it makes them feel like this is normalized behavior. Makes them feel like, they kind of just look at girls like they're some sort of like sexual object. They're not an actual person, because I guarantee not a single person. Actually, there was one person that brought her a rose. That's the one person that possibly treated her like a person during this entire thing. And even then, I'm being very kind to that one person. But yeah, that is the end of the documentary. Obviously, I didn't show a lot of footage because I don't want to just kind of take the entire video away from Josh. If you want to see everything in this documentary, make sure you go and watch his video after this one. However, I do want to discuss some important things. Now, you've seen how Lily is basically broke down after this. Like, she's literally in tears, being like kind of processing what she's just been through. And you would think this would make her reevaluate, like, her life. What kind of content she's putting out there. However, she's just made it 10 times worse for herself, as she's announced that she wants to break the world record and sleep with 1,000 men in 24 hours.
They need to kind of like walk in the room, one pump in, one pump out, and then leave.
24 hours though.
This is why I'm training. I've done the 100. I'm doing 300 in like a few weeks.
Why is she talking about this as if she's like completing like an Ironman challenge or something like that, or like, doing like a half marathon in preparation for a full marathon? This is genuinely crazy, and I guarantee this is going to be a vicious cycle where it never ends. Like, you can see from her personality type that nothing is going to satisfy that void that I keep mentioning that she thinks it will. She thought 100 guys would do it, and clearly it hasn't, because she's went for 1,000. And I guarantee she'll do 1,000, and after 1,000, that won't be enough. Because as many times as she mentions this is the thing that satisfies her, it's clearly not. Because if it did satisfy her sleeping with 100 guys, she would have stopped. She'd be fully satisfied, but she's not. Because that's not the thing that is actually driving her to do this. It's the fame, it's the money, it's just the notoriety of being who she is. I wonder if Lily doesn't even know in her own self, like, what satisfies her. Like, in preparation for doing this video, I researched quite a lot of podcasts she's been on, and she just constantly contradicts herself.
It just gives us the name that we're only here to have with, and that's all we offer. If some girl watches that and is like, right, well, I need to be having sex with my partner, otherwise he's gonna go cheat, then you're just having sex for his enjoyment. That feels like non-consensual to me, if you're just having sex because you feel like you have to.
So if we take that logic and apply it to what you've just done, you felt like you had to make these guys finish because they were guilt-tripping you. So surely that's non-consensual. Surely you've participated in that by your own logic. So you can't call other people out for that when you're doing the same thing. Herself, Bonnie Blue, all these people, they all promote this thing that, like, women are just kind of like sexual objects that men can kind of just use how they want to use them and then just kind of be done with them. As much as they try and justify it as being empowering, as being something where, like, women are, like, being their own bosses, this, to me, just isn't a positive way to kind of promote that. I've read quite a few studies about, like, the impact this sort of content and, like, OF and corn can kind of have on, like, on like women and men and how men view women. And there's so many drawbacks to like this content being out there. For instance, like it can cause body image issues for women. Like women can be more self-conscious because guys are used to like seeing a certain body type, or used to like girls doing certain things which like in the real world girls just don't do. Like girls in the real world don't sleep with 100 guys, and guys like they consume like porn from a very young age. Like stuff like this is altering a young boy's mind for when he grows up, and like this is going to be the basis of what he thinks about women. Whether that's right or wrong, that's just how it is, because that's what they're being exposed to from a young age. The more I kind of research into this, the more I think it's dangerous, the sort of stuff that Lily Phillips is actually putting out there. I watched a video from a YouTuber called Kirkham, and she was talking about like her own experiences about like being with people that have had like addictions to like the sort of content that Lily Phillips does and other corn videos. And she was saying it can have such a huge impact on like you, because people like your partner's used to like a certain kind of like standard. They're used to like a certain aspect of stuff happening in the bedroom, which just isn't attainable and just is completely away from reality. And like that can put such a strain on women to be kind of like they're constantly like in competition to be like adequate. I'd say, if that makes sense, in the eyes of guys. Another study I looked at when I was trying to get like an overview of Lily's perspective on why she's doing what she's doing was this one by a guy called Paul K. Piff, and he said that like higher social class predicts increased unethical behaviour. Now this is very generalised, but obviously Lily's come from like a wealthy family. Like she doesn't need to do this sort of content. In this study, he basically found out that people that came from like upper class kind of environments, they may be disposed to unethical, greater resources, freedom and independence from others among the upper class give rise to self-focused social cognitive tendencies, which we predict will facilitate unethical behaviour. And they basically found that certain people that grew up like that kind of didn't get as much repercussion for like their actions. And I wonder if that's like a thing with Lily, because you know, when you're struggling, you know, for money, like I've been struggling for money for like rent, etc. Like your main focus is just kind of trying to pay your bills. Like that's all you care about, just bills, like money. Have I got enough money to like see myself until the end of the month? And because Lily probably has never had to worry about that sort of thing, like her decision making on stuff doesn't have such serious consequences from being young. So when she's doing stuff like this, she probably just doesn't even consider the repercussions of like her actions. Now I know that might be a bit of a stretch, and it obviously this study is very generalized, but I'm really trying to understand from Lily's point of view why she doesn't see the bad in what she's doing, because everybody else seems to kind of see it. Even like a team, you can tell like when we've looked at a team are trying to justify it with the worst reasons ever. Now I do want to read out some tweets that I've seen about the situation, just seeing how the public have kind of reacted to this. Watching the Lily Phillips documentary on YouTube, and aside from being disgusted by the 100 men lining up to have sex with her, I'm more disturbed by her female PA egging it on and seeing it as a networking event for the men attending, and how fun it was to just chat and smoke. This is genuinely what I said. Like there was one point in the documentary where like the assistant is like asking anyone if they want any like, I think it was like bananas or like sandwiches. It's like, what are you treating this like a tea party for? Do you not realise the severity of this situation? The men involved in this are actually terrible people. Imagine waiting for your turn to sleep with a very clearly mentally unstable woman, and some even pressured her to finish. These men do not care about women. They purely see women as sex objects. Now that is completely true, and that's kind of what I've said in this video. This doesn't bring power back to women. This just kind of gives it even more to men, and kind of like emphasises how much men kind of see certain women is just kind of something they can use. Real men see a broken woman like Lily Phillips and want to save her. Boys see this video and slut shame and whatever else. I'm a man and I will gladly marry her no matter how many men she has slept with. If you looked at Lily Phillips and went, you know what, I don't think I'd want to marry someone that participates in stuff like that, I don't feel like that makes you any less of a man. I feel like if you judge people on like body counts, fair enough, but when something as serious and extreme as this happens, I feel like you're pretty well within your rights to get the ick. Her father's friends are subscribed to her. Her PA keeps urging her to complete it. She actively disassociates, convinced herself she's deprived herself from sleep and eating, drinking, left with trauma. And society wants to convince OF is not harming women. Like, that's another thing that I didn't even mention. Like, she said she dissociated herself from it, like, midway through, and she can't even remember. I think she said she remembered 10 people she slept with out of the 100. Now, this is a strong word, but that is trauma. That is your body kind of trying to get you to not experience what you're experiencing, if that makes sense. It's basically trying to safeguard you from getting overwhelmed and realizing that what you're participating in right now is really bad. Obviously with different scenarios, but I feel like I have it with some things in my childhood. Like you can't remember some things even though they were really, really bad, and it's because your body's kind of blocked it out of like I forgot what the word is. Is it trauma bonding or trauma response? It's something like that where your body basically makes you forget. Just to back that up one further, I'm pretty sure that women have it when they like during childbirth. Like I'm sure women's brains like trick them that the pain wasn't actually that bad and convinces them to have another one. I'm sure there's a study around that. If anyone has had more than one child, please let me know if this is a thing. Lily Phillips has a choice. She must be accountable for her own conduct to some level. I understand that women suffer with trauma and that not every situation is the same, but she chose 100 guys over therapy, rehab, education and morals. You can't just blame the men. Now I agree. Right? It's not, you can't just blame the men. Like, she is to blame. She is the one that has, like, kind of put this event on. But you've just said you can't treat every situation the same and then said she should have went to therapy, rehab, education. Like, this is the thing I'm trying to get at, is none of us know. The only person that knows why she's doing this is Lily, like deep down the only person. And even herself, she might not even know. It might just be in her heart, she feels like she needs to do it, but she doesn't understand the reason why. Whether she was like neglected in terms of attention as a child, whether she just has this constant hole she's trying to fill. It's just interesting that everyone's got an opinion on this situation. Like even fellow OF people have also tweeted about this. This Lily Phillips doc made me sick throughout, and then I actually cried at the end. I can't fathom how broken she must be mentally and physically after seeing the effects of 100 men 24 hours. I don't know how anyone can help or support her in the making of 1,000 men happen, or how anyone in their right mind could find being part of this or watching the videos hot in any way. And then she goes on to say, like, how could anyone that is this pretty, like, why would they ever perform and degrade and devalue and dehumanize and physically abuse their own body like this? And just saying she's clearly out of her own mind. Now I do think it's interesting to get the perspective of people that also do something that she does, because, you know, they have a different perspective on this altogether because they're actually in the industry. And when even people in the industry are like, this is too far, that's when you know that the line has been crossed severely here. I know we don't need OF people to say this, but it's just good to get like a backup from that industry that they don't agree with it. The fact that it's so easy to get 100 men who would be willingly to do this scares me, especially once towards the end when she's visibly worn out, shaken and on the brink of tears. Why? And that is interesting because, like, again, the only real profiters off this are kind of men. Right, like the people sleeping with her, they're the ones profiting off this. The people kind of watching it or getting off to it, even to an extent. Like if you want to keep going, it like Josh has made this documentary. He's a guy. He's profiting off this. Like how many views has this got right now? Like we worked out, he's made £8,300 just off Patreon so far. And that's for just the uncensored version. It's also got 700,000 views and it's like a 47-minute video. So, you know, just on averages, that could be like a £10 RPM. He's probably made about 7 grand off that. Like altogether, he's probably made about 15 grand off this. I'm not saying Josh is like taking advantage of her, but I'm just saying like it's a guy profiting. Me reacting to this, you watching this is making me money. I'm profiting off it. It's just guys. That's all it is. These fucking men. What we're going to do with it? But seriously, like, she's not the winner here. I know she's getting all of this money, but is it really worth the trauma? Is it worth like having to explain this to, you know, your future children and partners and your family constantly getting like asked about this in the street by other people? That's one thing I'd ask to Lily is I would love to know if she actually, you know, if she actually thinks about all these things. I would actually like to interview her, because one thing I would say about Josh is I don't think it was his intention with the video, but he didn't go really deep with that and really ask her and like probe her for answers with certain questions. I think he left her off the hook a little bit and just kind of, not really left her off the hook, but kind of, he was just showing the information to the audience without diving really, really deep into how she's feeling about it all, apart from the very end. But overall, I think it was a great documentary. I really do, and I think it's really exposed, and it's opened up a wider conversation, hopefully some positive ones. But honestly, like, this is one of the darkest things I've ever watched. If you do want to go and watch the Josh documentary, make sure you do. I will put a link in the description. If you want to go and watch my full video where I basically expose the marketing techniques of these people, click this video right here, or watch a more light-hearted video on my Reacts channel right here that I've just uploaded.